Hi everyone, it's Sarah. I'm here because I want to talk about a new program that I've created called Cosmic Algorithm, and I have a course coming up. It's July the 11th, and it's a 5-part series. And I just wanted to introduce it because it's completely new. No one's ever heard of it. And I have done a couple of introductions, and I've written a book called Cosmic Algorithm. It's on Amazon in paperback and also as Kindle. And the book is kind of like a manual, and then the course takes you through the principles and everything that's outlined in the book. And the whole point of it is to help people become more coherent. Okay, so when I say that, what I mean is that just live a more coherent life where you feel life isn't taking you over or running you, or you're chasing life, but more like you're standing with life. It's kind of subtle. I've given a lot of examples in Substack articles I've written. I do have a Substack account, and I do put out quite a bit of content, mostly about myself, because I don't want to write about clients and everything like that. It's private, but I do use myself and as an example, and to illustrate patterns that keep reoccurring. So that's to do with our signal, right? So the signal is what you emit, what goes out, what you broadcast, and then what happens in your life is a reflection of that. So the cosmic algorithm shows that it's not necessarily external events that create your reality, or create your experience. Meaning, oh, it's because, I'm from a working class family that I can't seem to get ahead, or I don't get any opportunities, right? Or it's because my neighbor is an asshole, right? Or they did this, or this school did this, or, so on and so forth, where it becomes a blame of everything outside of yourself, okay? So the cosmic algorithm kind of reverses that, where instead of externalizing everything, it becomes internalized, all right? And it's through an organization and structure. I'm not going to go too much into it because it's in the book, and also if you explore the course, I go way into that. And it's basically like a training. Like, it's not a healing module. I'm not doing any healing in the course and in the book. It's to illustrate the mechanics, really, of how life operates, right? How we engage with life. And I want to give a few examples. So I always had this sense of urgency that I gotta be ahead of the game. I never have enough time, or time's going so fast, and it's always like, what am I gonna do next? And since I've been doing this, right, so for the past year, I've really explored it. I mean, the cosmic algorithm. It's changed dramatically in that sense. And one of the things I realized was I had, I was running a parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so if you don't know what that is, it's basically the fight or flight. So you have the rest and digest, which is the sympathetic, and then the fight or flight, which is the parasympathetic. And I was running a low grade. So that means it's not so noticeable, but it's consistent. Okay, so you might relate to that. And it's like a sense of being hypervigilant, of kind of being out there, like meaning externalized, tracking everything. It also makes you a good facilitator in a way, because you're paying attention and you're kind of scanning people and stuff, or your environment. But I'll tell you what, it's really exhausting. Okay. And I learned that I don't have to do that. There's another way to be where it's not exhausting, and it's really simple. So that's part of the course in the book, is that I teach that, and it's a discipline, right? So it's a way of organizing oneself, and after a while it becomes integrated, so then you're not having to do it all the time. And then the other aspect of the cosmic algorithm is to do with sovereignty. All right, so unless you're sovereign, you're not really going to be able to apply the other principles, or they're not really going to land so well. And when I talk about sovereignty, what it really comes down to is who's driving the car, right? If you're the car, if I'm the car, am I in a driver's seat? Did I put the keys in? Am I driving the car? All right. Or is something or someone else driving that? Meaning, is my life organized around something else, someone else? Could be, it could be, let's say, institutions, it could be religions, it could be spiritual beliefs, it could be addictions. So one example I wanted to bring up today, because it's kind of relevant, right, is this, because we've got the World Cup's happening, and that's happening in real time right now. And it's more popular in Europe. Like, it's really popular where I grew up in England. And my family was very invested in soccer. There was a football team that they supported and were extremely loyal to. And the thing about football is that hold on a minute, I got to turn off my notifications. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Turn off. Okay, so the thing about football is that only one team can win, right? So it's set up so there's always going to be a loser and there's going to be a winner. So 50-50, it's going to be one or the other, right? So half the people are going to be disappointed, and the other half are going to be really exalted, right? Like, their team won. And in the World Cup, it comes down to one team, right? That one team wins, and then all the other teams lose. Yes, they get higher in the ranking and stuff like that, but there can only be like one winner. Okay, so in the family that I grew up in, like, my dad was completely consumed by football. He would, all his free time on a weekend, go see a game religiously every Saturday. No one else in my family was interested in it. My mom wasn't, my brother wasn't, and my sister wasn't. I wasn't. And then on Sunday, the game would play on the television, and it's like you couldn't walk in the room, right? Like, if you walked in the room and tried to make eye contact with my dad, he wouldn't even make eye contact. And if you tried to say something, he just like do this, he got really mad if you try to interrupt the game. And then if they lost, you better like stay out of his way, because he wasn't in a good mood. And this particular team, I'm not going to say who it was, but this particular team lost a lot. They lost a lot of games. They were in a lower division. And so basically my dad was in a pretty bad mood constantly. And it had captured him. So it had captured his attention. And that's what I feel like that game does. Like, I feel it extracts. I mean, what do you get out of it, really, except for the immediate thrill of cheering on your team, feeling a tribal belonging or whatever? But what does it really deliver? You know, entertainment, you know? But growing up in England, there, you know, everyone's heard of hooligans and football violence and like, you know, heaven forbid you're on the wrong train with the colors on, right? Because so football teams have colors, and you come across the opposing team fans, because it's also a drinking culture. And you know, you drink when they win because you celebrate, and then you drink when you lose to commiserate. Anyway, my whole point is like I don't know what it's like now, because I haven't lived in England for a long time, like 30 years or something. Longer than that. Actually, a lot longer than that. I left in my 20s. So I don't really know how it is now, but I know that people still really are into football and go to games and things like that. But when I grew up, it was a huge part of the culture, right? Working class mainly, okay? And I can confidently say that. I'd say that it destroyed my family. I can confidently say that. And then you see like people like Georgie Best, right? So Georgie Best was the most famous football player. He was from Ireland. He got in really young. He was exceptionally talented. And then his whole life was documented publicly. He became the first person that was like a celebrity football player. And you know, he hung out with the Beatles and the Miss Universe, and he was always partying and drinking and not showing up for practice and things like that. He became like the bad boy, you know, but because he was so good, they overlooked it a lot of times. But everybody witnessed his demise over a period of, I don't know, 30 years or something, where he eventually died of kidney failure. He had a liver transplant, and but he still continued to drink, as the tabloids would show, you know, like they would show him in the pub or whatever. Oh, he's drinking again. So what happens with that is it becomes a public display, right? So everybody reads about Georgie Best. Everybody knows about Georgie Best. And it normalizes that stereotype of like a brilliant football player who parties hard, right? Womanizer, all that. And I saw that in my family, in my extended family, where the men would emulate that behavior, okay? Because it's, I don't know, I think it's subconscious, but my point is that it's incredibly influential. And so I guess so going back to sovereignty, right? That doesn't feel sovereign to me at all, right? It's like the person's attention has been hijacked, monetized, and caught in this system of loyalty, which is quite interesting actually, because these teams, their players are not necessarily regional players, right? And that never made sense to me, that the players would come from different areas and then be bought by the team, and then they play for the team for a period, one season or whatever, or more, but then will go and be bought by the opposite team, right? Yet still, the people, the fans, are still cheering the team, even though it's not players that are from the area, or they've been bought, they've gone there, they've come back, or whatever, right? It's the brand. So they're loyal to the brand, the colors, the name, and you have sort of, I don't know, that never made sense to me. So coming back to the cosmic algorithm, being sovereign, being aware of your signal, and if it's been hijacked or captured in some way, right, then what signal are you putting out, right? It's not your authentic signal. It's running through, the football team, or the schedule of the football team, or the brand, like I said, right? So when you do these principles that I talk about in the book and in the course coming up, you are in a place where you start to see the bullshit. You start to see the manipulations, and you can't be manipulated anymore, okay? Because now you become coherent, and it's very difficult to capture your attention. Which today, right? Like, that's the biggest currency, is your attention. Like, that's where the money is, okay? If I can get you to look at this, right? Or if, Facebook can get you to look at certain things. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, because kind of like football with a binary system, like one team wins, one team loses, the same as politics, right? Same thing. People get very invested in their side, right? And it's mostly right or left. And it becomes oppositional. It becomes toxic and hostile and exclusive. I remember wearing a red hat in a video that I made. This was years ago, and one of the people that used to volunteer for me sent me a text and asked me if that was a MAGA hat, right? And, just because I don't subscribe to either side, because I don't, and I'm going to say I've never voted, and I won't, because I see through the system, okay? Doesn't matter. They're going to do whatever they want to do anyway. It's the same. They're on the same team, guys. It's the same. It's a system. Anyway, I don't want to convince you that. I'm just saying, like, even me wearing a red hat because I like red, I got associated with MAGA. That's the last thing that I would stand behind. I don't stand behind it, like I said, left or right. I don't. I see through it, right? I see what it is. So that's another way of capturing your attention, capturing your signal. And another way, right, so while I'm on the subject, is, like having dependency on someone else telling you about you. So let's say psychics, right? And I apologize to anyone who's watching who's a professional psychic. I do have friends that are professional psychics, right? But my thing is, when you outsource and you have someone else tell you about you, you've given them the keys to your car, right? Now they have authority, and you paid them, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not telling you what to do. And again, I apologize to my friends who might be watching, who do psychic work professionally. I'm just saying, it's not very sovereign, all right? So I'll give you an example too. So I used to do the I Ching. So I don't know if you know what the I Ching is. It's an old, very old Chinese divination book called the I Ching. It means the Book of Change. And I've started using that maybe 25 years ago or longer. And I found it very helpful, right? So it used to be that you throw coins, and depending on the combination, it would guide you to a page in the book. I think the book is 64 pages, and each page represents a cycle in nature. I'm just giving you the 101 basic of it. And you don't ask a yes or no question. You ask for a reflection, or can you comment on, and then you say it, right? So When everything went digital, the I Ching went from like throwing coins and having the actual book to an app, right? So I've had the app for quite a while, for years actually, and it's the same thing. You get really the same. I'd say it's just as good. And I used it a lot. I used it in business, and I can say now that I haven't used it in probably 6 months or something, I'd say. Whereas before I would use it maybe 3 or 4 times a month. It would come in clusters, I'd ask like a bunch of questions and then I wouldn't ask anything. But the more I've been working on my sovereignty, right? Like having less dependency on external sources, let's say, I haven't needed to. I haven't needed to ask the I Ching anything. It's like I'm able to figure it out myself. It's not a thing anymore. I don't seek it, if that makes sense, because it's not a thing. And I'd say that's a change in me. Also, another thing that I stopped doing was, I stopped praying to angels, alright? And I'm not telling you what to do, right? But how do I know? How do I know that, I've just been told about angels, right? I've been told about guides and guardians, but how do I know? I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm saying, I'm just going by what I know now and what kind of makes sense to me and what feels coherent, alright? So, when if it's a book, if it's a channeled book, whereas before I used to read channeled books. So if anyone doesn't know what channeling means, it's when you're channeling a non-physical entity or being or something like that, right? So some people channel Jesus or Mother Mary or Cleopatra, I don't know, like, it's a thing, right? And then they could write a book about it. Like the Course in Miracles, for instance, was channeled. That was a channeled book. And then it's has, a sort of authority, right? Like it's telling you how to live your life or telling you information. Let's say this, like on the spiritual end, it could be saying that your ego is bad and that judgment is bad. I'm laughing because I think that's absurd. If you don't have an ego, then how do you make decisions? How do you move through life? I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? You need your ego. And you need judgment. You need to know what's right and wrong. You inherently know anyway. It's because then you speak up, right? You speak up for yourself. You advocate for yourself. Or you advocate for a child. Or someone who is unable to advocate for themselves, okay? That's why you need judgment. You need to have an ego. You need to have boundaries. You need boundaries, okay? If you want to have any kind of respect or people will pay attention to you, alright? Like, if you don't have that, then you're kind of dissolved. Like, where are you? Right? So, coming back to the cosmic algorithm, it's a training on where you situate, where your base home is, like, where your home base is, let's say that. And anyway, so it was a combination of everything I've learned over the past 25 years, which started with polarity therapy, then cranial sacral unwinding, then family constellations and horses. I mean, I got into horses 20 years ago or something. Longer than that. In a therapeutic sense, right? That's my model my model here is horse constellations, so it's a combination of family constellation and horses. But horses read you, like they know, they're looking for where you are, like where are you? Meaning, are you out here? Are you dispersed? Are you dissolved? Are you blending with the environment? Or are you internalized? Okay, that's what they're looking for, because they orient around you, around your orientation. And if you're not in yourself, if you're not in your body, you're kind of invisible to them. All right. So that leads me to a sequel of the online course, is a 2-day practice here called Signal Presence with Horses, where people get to try out the principles from the cosmic algorithm in a living field, that means with horses in real time, and they show you your signal, they show you the quality of your signal, they show you where you're at, right? It's immediate feedback, and you can learn from that, right? And again, it's not, I'm not doing healing, I'm not doing constellations in this 2-day workshop. It's purely for people to gauge, you know, where they're at, where your attention is, you know, your presence, okay, or your needs, right? So sometimes when people do an exercise with horses, they want to do it right. They want the horses to like them, or notice them, or organize around them, right? So that's pressure. So immediately the person is outside of themselves with an agenda, and that is you're not oriented, you're not in, you're out, because you're wanting a specific outcome or a result or a response. You're wanting a specific response, right? And that displaces you, okay? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then it's probably not for you, because and I shouldn't laugh or anything like that, but it's kind of I guess for people that have been doing a lot of work on themselves for years, and have tried not every, but lots of different models of healing, have tried self-development, stuff like that, but then still find there's underlying structural behaviors that never change. Okay, like things change, but there's always a baseline that never changes. Right, so that's where the cosmic algorithm comes in, because it's structural. Okay, and if you follow the principles, you'll see, you'll have a reference point of what it's like to be sovereign, to be organized internally, to have awareness around, you know, what's happening, right? To notice patterns, and to be regulated, essentially. So when I say regulated, I mean, like, you know, not running a parasympathetic nervous system all the time, constantly, okay? Calm, like time slows down. That's what happened to me. Time slowed down. It was really apparent, but it was only when I had the reference of not being in that constant nervous state that I noticed, right? Otherwise, you don't notice. When you are doing the same thing constantly all your life, let's say, you don't know anything else. So how you don't have a reference. Anyway, I've been going on. Thanks a lot for listening. I see a couple of people in here. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. So in the book, the last sentence or the last paragraph I talk about the cosmic algorithm as a silent revolution. So what I mean when I say that is that when you're coherent, when you're aware, when you're sovereign and coherent, you can't be manipulated. All right, you can't be captured, or it's really easy to gauge when someone or something is trying to extract from you, when it's not reciprocal. Okay. And if more people are like that, then all these corrupt systems, they can't function. They can't function because they need us. They need us to participate. Going back to the football, football needs that system. That system needs you to participate. Otherwise, it will fall apart. Same with politics. I'm talking about corrupt systems, okay? I'm not talking about reciprocal systems that give back, that enhance our lives, that enhance the environment, that enhance the lives of animals, things like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the systems that extract. That's the whole point, right? Is to take. That becomes obvious, and it just doesn't work if you're coherent. And that's the revolution. That's the revolution. It's not through fighting, like fight for this, fight for that, fight. Like when you're constantly fighting for something, that becomes your signal. That's coded in your signal, all right? When you don't feel like you need to, life starts organizing around you. Okay, that's the difference. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Oh, Lynn says, can't believe you never voted. No, I haven't. And a lot of people get upset with me about that, and they throw the women card. Women got the vote and women suffered to give you the vote and all that. But I don't like any of them. I don't like them. They're all lies, they're all cheats, and I don't trust any of them. So, yeah, I'm not going to be part of that. I'd rather come up with what I'm talking about to help people regulate themselves, to know what it's like to be sovereign, to know what it's like to not be so dependent, right? Obviously, we have to be dependent on certain things, but when it's overly dependent, when it's taking away your agency, that's what I'm talking about, right? When your agency is taken away from you, or you give the keys to your car, that's what I'm talking about, right? Then that I'm not into that. I'm not subscribed. I don't subscribe to that. And what else do you say? Thanks, Lynn. So, Lynn, so interesting. What's the name of your book? It's called Cosmic Algorithm, and it's on Amazon, and it's in my bio in the Linktree link. And it also is a paperback. It's only 55 pages. It's like a manual, like I said earlier. So it's kind of like I go through sovereignty, I go through signal, field, axis, nervous system, heart, and the system overall. So it's not a belief system, it's not a cult or anything like that. It's just like the mechanics of the algorithm, of the cosmic, meaning larger, okay? And then, what else do you say? I'm fascinated by how intelligent people can be persuaded by bad politicians. Yeah. Well, that's when your signal's been captured into loyalty, right? To be loyal, like the football teams. When people are loyal to football teams, or it's because you've already invested. Like when people invest, it builds their loyalty, right? And anyway, it's kind of like human nature, but yeah, you don't have to be. But thanks for the questions. Yeah, we can withhold our vote as well as give it. You're welcome. All right then. Thanks everybody, and I'm gonna end now. And yeah, please let me know if you have any questions or anything. And the links are in my profile, also for the course as well, coming up on July 11th. Oh yeah, one more thing. I have a Substack account, and in the Substack account, I use myself as an example of patterns that I've repeated in my life, and I don't know, sort of personal stuff. Like the really personal stuff is behind a paywall. It's like $8 a month or something. You could just do it and then unsubscribe if you wanted to read any of that. But it was to illustrate how I was chasing life. Let's say that, like chasing after life, and how I got to stand with it. Okay, it's very different. It's subtle. It sounds, what's she talking about? But it's huge. It's huge. So I give examples of that. And hold on. Are some people more susceptible to giving? Yeah. Well, yeah. I think if you have, well, let's say this, because the way that we are culturally, right? We're programmed at a very young age, and we go to school, right, which is a government institution, and the school I went to, the worst school in Kent, was priming us to be factory workers, all right? And so, the bell rings, you get up, you move, you sit down all day. You learn really irrelevant stuff. Like, a lot of it to me was completely boring and irrelevant. And then you're told, if you get your degree or your whatever it is at school, CSE, I think in England CSE or O-level, then you've got more chance of getting into this institution and learning this. And I think the more that you get caught up in the institutions, the more programmed you are, and the harder it is to see the manipulation